June 28, 2015, Southwest Florida International Airport, at approximately 11 p.m., a surveillance camera captured 46-year-old Dr. Teresa Sievers walking through the arrivals terminal pulling her luggage. She had cut short a family vacation with her husband and 2 daughters in Connecticut to fly home early. She had patients to see in the morning. That was Teresa, always working, always putting everyone else first. She got in her car and drove the short distance back to her home in Bonita Springs, Florida. She pulled into her garage. 2 men were waiting for her in the dark. By the time Teresa walked through her own front door that night, she had only minutes to live. She was struck with a hammer 17 times. The next morning, when she did not show up to her clinic, a family friend went to check on her. He found her face down on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood. And her husband, Mark, he was still in Connecticut with their daughters. Over 1,000 miles away, the perfect alibi. 2 men from Missouri had driven over 1,000 miles to kill her. They had been sent by the one person who was supposed to love and protect her most.
Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa Sievers. And it might seem unusual that a board-certified internist is going to speak to a certified master life coach. Many of you don't even know what they do, but we're going to find out today. And the reason I want to bring this information to you is because it is part of the stools of your health.
Teresa Ann Grace Tottenham was born on November 19, 1968, in Darby, Connecticut. She was raised by her mother after her parents separated when she was just 1 month old. From 6th grade, she knew she wanted to be a doctor. She specialized in integrative and holistic medicine, a field she was deeply passionate about. She believed in treating the whole person, not just the symptom. She moved to Bonita Springs in 2006 and opened her own practice, the Restorative Health and Healing Center in the Estero Medical Center. Patients loved her.
And to have a doctor like Dr. Sievers, who's well respected in the more conventional community, to have her come out and support an acknowledgement of the mind-body relationship and bringing Lankasviska into her practice to help develop that for people is just a great step in the right direction.
Outside of her clinic, Teresa was a devoted mother to 2 young daughters. In 2003, she met Mark Sievers. He was the brother of one of her friends. It was her second marriage. They built a life together in Bonita Springs, a home on Eagle Lake Drive. But the marriage was not what it appeared. Mark worked in Teresa's clinic managing the office, while Teresa handled all patient care. He was financially dependent on her. Teresa had confided in people close to her that she was considering leaving. Mark heard that, and Mark had a plan. Mark Sievers was 47 years old at the time of Teresa's murder. He had grown up in Missouri, and his most important friendship from those years was with a man named Wayne Wright Jr. Wright was more than a friend, he was Mark's near lookalike. Same build, same facial features. So close that when Mark started losing his hair, Wright shaved his own head to match. In 2015, Mark flew to Missouri to attend Wright's wedding. And at that wedding, according to Wright's own testimony, Mark confided something. He said his marriage to Teresa was in serious trouble. He said he feared Teresa was going to leave him and take their daughters. He said he could not afford to fight for custody. And then the conversation crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. He said he needed Teresa to die, Wright later testified, and he said he would pay me to help him.
You said now Mr. Sievers wants your help having his wife killed.
Yes.
Did y'all discuss whatever it was you were supposed to do to make this happen for him?
Not specifically. When he asked, I asked what kind of time frame he was looking at. He said that as soon as possible.
Mark Sievers had another reason to want his wife dead beyond just the marriage. Teresa had 5 life insurance policies. Together, they were worth $4.433 million. Mark was the sole beneficiary on all of them. Wright agreed to help. And without telling Mark at first, he recruited a third man, Jimmy Ray Rodgers, a 25-year-old career criminal he had met in prison. 1 week after her brutal murder, Mark stood at Teresa's funeral and told the crowd, "I was, and still am, the luckiest man in the world." The plan required timing. It required Teresa to be home alone. In late June 2015, he organized a family trip to New York to visit Teresa's family in Connecticut. Teresa, being the dedicated doctor she was, flew home early on Sunday, June 28th, so she could see patients the next morning. On the morning of Saturday, June 27, 2015, at around 7 a.m., Curtis Wayne Wright left his house in Hillsboro, Missouri. He drove half an hour to Cadet, Missouri to pick up Jimmy Ray Rodgers. They entered Teresa's home address into their GPS and began the 1,100-mile drive to Florida. They drove through the day and into the night, 17 hours on the road. Investigators estimate Wright and Rodgers arrived at the Sievers home at approximately 6 a.m. Mark had given them the alarm code. They disabled it, and then they left. Surveillance cameras captured Wright and Rodgers shopping, calmly, casually, as if they were just two men running errands, hours before they were going to commit a murder. They paid, they left. They drove to a local beach and spent time by the ocean. Late Sunday night, surveillance cameras captured Teresa Sievers walking through the arrivals terminal at Southwest Florida International Airport. She was pulling her luggage. She was alone. She was heading home. Wright and Rodgers were already there. They had returned to the house hours earlier, entering through a side door they had pried open to make it look like a break-in. Teresa arrived home at 11:25 p.m. Wright followed her inside. He picked up a hammer that was sitting on top of the garage freezer. As he walked into the kitchen, he stumbled on a dog dish. Teresa heard it. She turned around. She came face to face with a man who looked just like her husband. She was struck with a hammer 17 times. She was 46 years old. She had 2 daughters. She had patients waiting for her in the morning. After the murder, Wright and Rodgers attempted to stage a burglary. They rifled through her luggage and purse, but they left the safe containing over $40,000 in cash untouched. No real burglar would do that. On the morning of June 29th, when Teresa did not show up to her clinic, Mark called his neighbor and fellow doctor, Dr. Mark Petrites, and gave him the garage code to go check on her. Petrites entered the house and made a horrifying discovery. Teresa was lying face down on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood with a hammer beside her. He immediately called 911.
911, what is your emergency?
I'm at a friend's house. He's out of town, and I came here to check on the wife, and she's dead on the floor.
Oh, sir, hold on,
Yeah.
stay on the line.
Yes.
Okay, you're doing very well.
And she's bashed in the back of the head. And she's cold. She's dead.
When Petrites called Mark to tell him what he had found, Mark asked one question. Not, is she okay? Not what happened. His first question was it a robbery?
So during any conversation with Mr. Sievers that day, did he ask how his wife was hurt?
He didn't ask specifically, but he asked, was it a robbery? He didn't ask how she was hurt, where she was going to or be taken to.
As the investigation progressed, detectives discovered numerous photos and videos on Mark's phone of women he had been intimate with. The marriage was clearly not what it appeared to be. 2 months into the investigation, the break came from the most unlikely place. A tip reached detectives about a man named Curtis Wayne Wright. His wife Angie had been upset because he had taken a sudden weekend trip to Florida without telling her. When investigators looked into Wright, they discovered he was Mark Sievers' childhood best friend from Missouri. Wright initially told police he had been in Florida that weekend to fix computers at Teresa's clinic for his friend Mark. Investigators pulled the GPS data from the rental car Wright had used on June 27th and 28th. What they found was extraordinary. It recorded every mile of the trip, from Missouri to the Sievers home in Bonita Springs, to Walmart, to a beach. And then, Rodgers' pregnant girlfriend Taylor Showmaker came forward. She told police Rodgers had confessed to the murder.
I remember me bringing it up, saying that I knew that he had something to do with it, and he agreed with me. And I asked him if he killed her, and he said yeah. And then I asked him if he shot her with a gun, and he said no. And then I asked him how, and he said with a hammer.
Wright and Rodgers were arrested in Missouri, and then to get a reduced sentence. Curtis Wayne Wright made a decision that destroyed Mark Sievers. He agreed to testify. He told investigators everything about the wedding, about Mark's request, about the $4.433 million in life insurance. In December 2015, Mark Sievers was arrested. Curtis Wayne Wright pleaded guilty and agreed to testify against both Jimmy Ray Rodgers and Mark Sievers. In exchange, he received a 25-year sentence. Jimmy Ray Rodgers went to trial. A Lee County jury convicted him of second-degree murder and trespassing. He was sentenced to life in prison on December 12, 2019. Mark's trial was the most anticipated. He maintained his innocence throughout. His defense argued that Wright had acted alone, that Mark had never ordered anyone killed. The jury did not believe him. On January 3, 2020, Judge Bruce Kyle sentenced Mark Sievers to death for the murder of his wife, plus an additional 30 years for conspiracy to be served concurrently. He is currently on death row at Union Correctional Institution in Rayford, Florida.
Teresa is my soulmate. I will miss her and cherish our memories until we are reunited in heaven. Until then, I will fight this wrongful conviction until I am proven innocent and set free to rejoin my family.